thanks for coming on to Cori's clay class. I'm going to be making a thrown and altered mug today. And I call these mugs waddle mugs because they remind me of a duck as it's trying to walk. You'll see in a minute. So, coning up and down, just stay there a little longer than you think you need to make certain that it's nice and centered. Press that clay down as you open up the center. And then I go sort of from the center to about 3 o'clock as I make the span wide on that base. Compress the bottom. Back and forth. Give yourself about 4 seconds or so to go outside and then back in, and then toward the outside and then back in. The first pull you'll want to do in a conical shape, so the center of the top of their pot is going to be smaller in circumference than the bottom, like a grain silo. This will help beat the centrifugal force that's going to want to take your pot wider. Remember to get rid of all that moisture in the bottom too. You don't want it sitting in there and causing your pot to get stressed at the bottom and promote cracks and such. Clean your pot on the outside every once in a while too. Doesn't need all that slip there. It's good to move it around. Clean it up. Notice here is that I just linger for a little bit of time right at the bottom of the pot, and I'm compressing that clay before bringing it up, because what I don't want is to leave a whole bunch of clay down at the bottom on the wheel head. I want it in the pot. So you might have to just stay there a little longer down below and let your fingers know that they're talking to each other so you can bring that clay up. Clean the inside out. Don't let the water sit there, not a good idea. Clean up and compress that rim. And now I'm going to take a metal rib and clean up some of those throwing lines because I want this to be kind of smooth. And I'm taking my inside hand and just running it against the outer ridge of that rib. Look at all that slip. Ooh, don't want that on the pot. Better to get it off the pot. When you're holding your rib also, just remember, you can manipulate the angle of your wrist, which will give you a different surface. Compress that rim. You'll see my little pinky actually goes over the top of the rim, and that has just a bit of pressure downward, and that helps to compress it as well. I'm now going to start to shape that clay a bit by pressing from the inside out into the curvature of the rib. So I take my thumb on that rib and just press it toward the center while my 4 fingers are wrapping around my thumb almost. And that helps to curve that rib, and I'm throwing right into that curve. So what I want to do is have a sharp delineation, or a sharp mark, between what is the bottom or the hips of this pot and what we'll call the sides of this pot, or the upper area of the pot. once I've done the compression with that piece of plastic, it's just a piece of plastic that I've folded in half, run along the top. I'm now talking about the shape that I want the straight edge to be. And it's going to have a nice swoop on the back end once I've done the cutting or the altering. But the front end I want to protrude a little bit more, like a little bit of a throat almost. So that's what I need to create at this point. And I'll do that with that metal rib. Here I'm going to show you one that has already been altered, and it'll give you a little bit of a sense of what I'm looking at creating in this next one. And that'll be by cutting a dart in it. You see how there's one side that's kind of straight and one side on the left there that's swooping, or that's kind of like a little ski hill almost. So that's what we're going to work toward right now. And I'm going to just use another rib again and just spread that out after giving it a couple of little marks on the side there. Those are just little decorative marks where the glaze will catch, will pool, and it'll just add a little bit of visual interest. It'll also feel kind of lovely because you'll be having a different sense of texture as you run your hand on your mug. Now, I know that's looking pretty huge for a mug, and it's going to be a huge mug. Some of these may turn into pitchers, but we'll call them mugs for the time being. So I'm just widening that top line or edge a little bit more, giving it that throat I was talking about. And now I'm going to start to cut. And I'm going to cut a triangular dart here. But whoops, look what happened. My pin tool came right out of its little holder, so I'm just gently taking it out. That's not the normal case. So now it's about looking at where I'm going to overlap. And I'm going to take my left side actually and overlap it on top of the right side. And that's so that when my fingers are inside of that and the wheel's spinning around, it doesn't butt up against my fingers, right? It'll smoothly glide around my finger. So although it looks like it's the right side over the left, it actually is the left over the right. Remember, this video is done in reverse. My wheel will be going in a counterclockwise position, not clockwise. And now what I need to do is compress that seam. So I'm adding a little bit of water to the bottom of my knife tool, the little wooden knife tool. I don't want too much water in there though, so I'm just shaking it out. Now I'm going to place it against the seam from the inside and push out just a little bit so it doesn't collapse. And I'm just going to roll that edge over top of the underlying edge. Just like that. And that wooden knife is acting as a support, as a bit of a resistance, so that I can compress the two seams together, or the two edges of the seam together. You don't need to add too much water, but you do want your hand to slide over that edge. And you can decide if you want to use a rib and clean up that seam so that it's non-transitional and you don't see it. I happen to want to see the seam afterwards, so I'm going to leave that visual edge of the seam. And I'll still be cleaning it up with a damp sponge after it's leather hard. take your knife tool and remember to support the hand that's holding it with your other hand. So like I'm doing here also, I'm supporting that needle tool with both hands, not just one. Score underneath it, give it a little slice, and as long as it's not too wet down there and you've been removing some of the water, it should release fairly easily. Just like that. Thanks for stopping by. Like, share, subscribe, comment. You know the drill. Live purposely, everybody. Take care of each other. Bye.